broadband dropped. Anyway, I was talking about the camera and a viewfinder, and Ben told me a couple of people have asked, are we in a bedroom? No, in a loft office actually. This is the brand new Symbian 3 viewfinder. It's really simple. I'll hold it up so you can get a bit of a look. So you'll see there's an option to switch to video, which is just here at the top. No, other side, James. There it is. There's an option to switch to video. There's the flash, which is set to automatic at the moment, and there's one button to get into settings. And it's that's quite fancy. So if you tap into that, you'll see it's a nice touch that you can switch between any of these settings, and they're not hidden in lists, which is quite unusual for Nokia. Nokia likes lists of things. This is a nice overlaid graphical menu. I'll just come out of it for a second. So you've got one button, like I say, to switch between video and photos, one button to switch flash on and off, one button to see all the settings. So I'll show you a couple of those settings now. The first one is probably my favourite, is grid. So I've just switched it on there. You can see the menu still on. I'll take the menu off there. And what that grid does is it lets you use the 2/3 principle, which photographers will know, lets you frame up shots a lot easier. It also helps if you're taking pictures of landscapes, because you can actually use it as a horizon line. If you put the horizon on the bottom horizontal line, things tend to look a lot more balanced and better. The rest of the screen is completely clear, even if you've got the grid switched off. So there's no reason to tap the screen and obscure what you're taking a picture of. You can do, there's a little camera shutter button at the bottom, but because there's that hardware key, that makes things a lot easier. Again, I use an iPhone 4, and it's quite annoying if you're taking pictures of things and you have to get your finger on the screen to do the zoom. That's not a problem. This is more like a compact camera. I prefer the camera function in this to iPhone. There's a lot more control here. So I'll show you the grid, show you the settings icon. And there's also things for colour tones, white balance, exposure. You can change the ISO up to 800, which is high enough to pick up low light. I'll be honest, it's not amazing in low light, because it's limited to ISO 800, but because it's got quite a wide lens and it's got that big sensor, it does tend to make a lot out of the light that you give it. It's face detection. That's worthy of a quick look. It's not to be confused with smile detection, and it won't take a picture for you like some camera phones and some cameras do. It's not gonna. It doesn't release the shutter automatically when your mates smile. It just keeps their faces detected. And yeah, scene modes as well, which are quite handy. I'll just go into those. Just up there. Again, this is a list. That's a more typical Nokia list, but you can see they've got automatic, you've got close-up, portrait, landscape. There's a nice one, user defined, which is where you can tweak some of the settings yourself, and you can kind of keep those, you know, for best, if you like. So you can change whatever you want to keep and come back to them pretty easily. There's also the flash options are flash on or off, red eye reduction, which flashes twice, once to get your mate's pupils to contract, and then another one to take the actual picture, and automatic, which makes its best guess considering. Last thing I wanted to really talk about is editing features. So taking a photo is brilliant, but very few camera phones let you edit photos as well. So Nokia are actually quite far ahead in just including even the most basic editing tools, and actually some of the editing tools on the N8 are more than basic. So I'll just head into photos. So there's the home screen. I'll try and hold it a little bit closer. There's the menu, which is there's photos, and all. You can arrange them into albums as well, as you'd expect. There you go, there's all the photos that we took just a little while ago. We can scroll up and down. It's very smooth, very fluid. It's not like your daddy's Nokia. Symbian 3 is very responsive, and it's a capacitive touchscreen as well. Symbian 3 is quite new in that things like you can do that long press. If you saw that, it's a bit far away, but whereas before you'd have to hit something, go into options, choose edit. Now you can. It's quite tricky to see what I'm doing. I'll just hold on something and you get that pop-up menu, and then from there I can just hit edit, or I can add it to an album, or there's a few things I can do there. Send it to someone, delete it, slideshow, edit, add to album. I can add tags so you can search by tags later on, but for now let's just edit. So there you go, it's open pretty quick, and immediately it asks me which tools I want to use. All the usual suspects are there, so you've got things like cropping, rotating, resizing. There's a few one-touch filters as well, so you can instantly kind of apply a different colour or a look. But one of my favourite things, I think, other than the fact that it's got the basics there, you can draw on it, you can add frames, you can add clip art. But one of my favourites is let's just show you the effects. I'll show you. Oops, sorry. It says pressing the wrong thing. There we go, tuning. There we go. So there's a half decent picture that I took outside a little while ago. It was raining. You can hit auto and it does its level best to sharpen it up, but also you can scroll through these. Also there's a button there called horizontal comparison, and what it does is it draws a line through the middle of your picture. You can see it there, and it's got before and after. I'll try and hold it a bit still. So you can see before is above and after is on the bottom. And I'll make it a bit more obvious. I can go through some other effects now. So I can go through colour casts, and here you go. I'll add a red cast because that's pretty hard to avoid. There you go. So you can see that I've added the red cast below and the original photos above. Okay, brilliant. I like that. I think it looks good. I press OK and it's saved. I can go to option. I can save that. I can send it. I can print it. So if I hit save, another thing to notice is this is a non-destructive editing app, so you get to keep your original. When the iPhone came out and first had videos, people moaned non-stop because it was a non-destructive. It was a destructive editing process where you trimmed something and you lost the original. This is non-destructive, so you get to keep everything. So there I can go to my photo library and it's there. Cropping as well, as you'd expect. It's got handles on the corner, rotation, you can spin stuff around. I won't go through those because they're exactly what you'd expect them to be. And the last thing, the very last thing that I wanted to mention before getting on some questions is about the social stuff that's built into this. And I won't go through it because it's such a small thing in practice, but Nokia have included a social app. It's just under applications, and there it is. It's got a Twitter logo next to it, which gives the game away as to what it's for, and a Facebook one. At the moment, Twitter and Facebook are the only ones supported, although Nokia have said they're going to add some more, and they've got other services lined up for local markets. So there's a couple for Brazil, there's a couple for different countries. And you basically go in, you tap in your Twitter and your Facebook IDs, and there's a handy option for all updates, and you hit that and you can upload a photo to Twitter and Facebook at once, which is quite handy if, like me, you've got friends that are on Twitter but you're not really friends enough to be Facebook friends, or you just want to show everyone something at once, and it's a nice little time saver. So we thought we'd do now we've covered off the hardware, the software, and what you do with the photo once you've taken it, we'd say any questions. And just to recap, you can email us, editor@electricpig.co.uk. You can send us a message through Twitter, we're just @electricpig. Or you can go onto Facebook, facebook.com/electricpig. Or you can use the live chat, or you can you could phone Ben if you got his number. We've got live chat and there's comments section. That was the last one. There's comments underneath the live chat. So the ones that I've got here are, here's the first one. Question from Sure Tom, who left it yesterday actually in the build up to today's live Q&A, and he or she, it's not strictly about the N8 camera, but we'll answer it really quickly. It says, on the keyboard as you type, does it show words like Symbian Mobile and Android? This is the main reason I have not had a Symbian touchscreen. So I said I'll just show you the keyboard, it's probably easiest. So if I was to go into texts and new message, nice big screen, you tap in there. If you hold it in portrait, then you see pretty familiar view. It's a number pad which supports either multi-tap or T9. If you tilt it horizontally, then you get a full-blown QWERTY. Input options, activate prediction, predicted text activated, and yes, it does. So hello world. There we go. So there, I typed hello WOR, and you can see it's suggesting hello work, which isn't quite right. You might struggle to see that, but yeah, predictive text is there for landscape, and of course it's there for portrait because of T9. That's what T9 pretty much is. So there you go, shirts on. The other question following that was, will this live Q&A be available to watch later? Yes, we're recording it to disk now. We're going to upload it to YouTube straight afterwards, so you'll be able to watch back. And that's what Ben's here for. He's going to weed out some of the duplicate questions. So next question. Bongo emailed in to ask whether the N8 has a camera cover. The answer is no. There is, I'll try and get really close. There is a kind of cover behind the glass, but it's not one that you can control. You can't. There's no hard. This block that pops out isn't a sliding thing. It's solid, and it doesn't move, and it's what houses the camera. Now Nokia has said that adding an overall cover on the outside would have made it too bulky. It already adds quite a lot of width to it. Try and hold it up. And they also point out that apps like Facebook and Twitter apps need to be able to open the camera and be able to use it. So that's why they haven't added one. They do point out though that the glass is toughened and strengthened, and it meets all their usual drop tests and scratch tests. So it's one of those small sacrifices I think we'll have to make. Bashed has asked through Twitter, which is @electricpig, if you want to drop us a line, give me one good reason why I should get the N8 rather than the Desire HD. Okay, you asked for one reason. We've been talking about it for a while. The camera is probably the best reason. 8 megapixels on the Desire HD versus 12 on the N8. And the thing again, excuse me, the thing to remember is that the sensor in this is much bigger. So 8 megapixel camera versus 12 megapixel, you know, whoop-de-doo, megapixels like everything. If they look horrible at the end of the day, that's not going to happen because you've got a nice big sensor that doesn't get noisy. So that's for one reason. That's probably it. Worth pointing out as well, they both shoot HD videos. So if that's really important to you, then again, there's no reason why you wouldn't pick the N8. It just comes down to personal preference, you know, whether you like Android or you want to give Symbian 3 a spin. Phil Nixon asks through Facebook, I'm less bothered about pixel numbers. The N8 has a large 1 by 1.83 inches optical format sensor, which I like. Are there any competitor mobiles with large sensors to consider as an alternative? We did a bit of research on this because it was sent in before the Q&A. It was on our Facebook wall for a while. As far as we know, as far as we can find out, this is the largest sensor that we've been able to find in a phone, and you are right, those numbers aren't right. We had to do a bit of scratching around, and the only other kind of 12 megapixel camera that we could think of off the top of our heads, really, that was worth kind of highlighting was Sony Ericsson Satio, or Satio, and it's 12 megapixels, but it's actually when you find out how big the sensor is, it really does highlight that the N8's huge. So we turned the inches into millimeters to make it fair. The Satio's sensor is 6 millimeters by 4.5, so 6 by 4.5, so about half a centimeter square. The Nokia N8 is 25 millimeters by 45, which is huge. You know, the inside, it's basically the whole sensor is just in that block there. So it's massive in comparison, and still has the same number of pixels. So they're just not as crammed in. You're going to get much smoother pictures. Clive via email says, how does it compare bangs per buck to the latest or best Android stroke iPhone and BlackBerry phones for me? A heavier business than personal user. So again, more of a general question. The camera is obviously not going to be a big draw for you, Clive, when it comes to business, although it's worth pointing out that the N8 has Office apps already pre-installed. It's got Quick Office, so you can edit Word documents, Excel documents. You can faff about. Things like the iPhone or most Android phones can't edit those docs straight out of the box. You'd have to go and find a third-party app. You probably have to pay for it. And in the future, Nokia and Microsoft have announced a tie-up and a partnership, so there will be versions of Word and Excel and PowerPoint for Symbian. Another thing to point out is, we haven't really talked about it yet, but the top of the N8 has a HDMI output, which just connects up to a means you could connect to a projector or a TV. And if you're thinking about business uses, then there's no reason why you couldn't run a PowerPoint presentation from this, or you couldn't show a document on a big screen for people to see, or even use it for showing movies and clips. So there's plenty of bang for your buck there. Realistically, if you're looking for a business phone, you're probably going to want a hardware keyboard just because they're easier. I've yet to find any touchscreen phone that's easier to type for a long time on than a good old BlackBerry keyboard, or even some of the Nokia flip keyboards. So that's the end of the questions I've got there. Have you got any, Ben?
Yeah, quite a few coming in here. We'll stick with the photo ones first. Sue in the comments wants to know whether the Nokia N8 can play HD movies.
Yeah, it can. I just mentioned HDMI. Obviously the screen isn't HD, which is something that a lot of mobile manufacturers bandy around HD, and they say, oh, it plays HD movies. It does if you connect it to a big HD screen. The N8 makes it pretty easy because it's HDMI, which carries video and audio, so it's just one cable, and it will play HD. It'll play 720p, which is HD. It's not full HD 1080 or 1080i or 1080p, but it's pretty good, And the other thing is it's got Dolby inside, which handles surround sound. So if you've got a surround sound set up, you can plug it into there, and it will do surround sound through 5.1. And Dolby actually say it's not just limited to 5.1. It could be more in the future. They could upgrade it to whatever, really. So yes, it will play HD.
And James BC in the comments wants to know what the name of the dog is.
The name of the dog in the photo, that's Steve the sausage dog, who's actually very quiet. She's a puppy, so normally screams the house down.
Going back to the subject though, Vetianu on Twitter wants to know simply about the N8, is it a faster phone? Does it have any lag?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Symbian for a while was lagging behind iPhone and Android. Symbian 3 is actually pretty quick. I'll just zip around a few things. So there's applications, there's a bit of scrolling, let's go into the photo editor again. There we go, we're in. There's all the photos, so we'll go to another picture of Steve. Again, these are 12 megapixel pictures. It's worth remembering that, these are not small camera phone pictures. Let's get back. I'll try and go to, because I'm in the editor, it wants me to edit everything that I touch, so I'll go into Photo Viewer, and if I can find it, where's it gone? There we go, Photos. And I'm still on my editing from before. Come on. There you go. So these are 12 megapixel pictures, remember. So there's quite a lot of data to be shoveling around. And it's quite hard to get ahead of it. There's a video which is locked. So yeah, it is a lot quicker. There's 3D acceleration as well, so games and things are a lot faster. It's zippy. Is the best way I can describe it. It's not kind of like press something and it's already open for you. It's not that fast, but it's so much quicker than old Nokia's. And Symbian 3 is really, it's actually growing on me a lot. I played with it first a while back, and I thought, it's Symbian but prettier. Actually, this is very nearly final, and the more it gets there, it's actually starting to be quite impressive, and it's as fast as Android, put it that way.
One of our watchers, James, just asked whether you can hold the phone nearer to the camera whilst you're talking about it.
Yeah, no problem.
And another one, Bashed in the comments has got in the chat has got a couple of questions. He says, are there any obvious bugs or annoyances with the Nokia N8?
There's no obvious bugs. Like I say, this is kind of close to final. So I'll just hit the old camera button. Let's see, there you go. There's no obvious bugs that I found. In terms of annoyances, again, it's the only thing that I found really annoying, especially we'll talk about the camera, is sending pictures to people is a little bit clunky. So you take a picture, and to send it you have to go into the Twitter app. You can't send it from within the camera to Twitter. But again, that's something that I'm sure Nokia can clear up. It's not a huge problem. It's just a tiny little thing. And no, to be honest, like I say, I've been kind of bowled over by how good Symbian 3 is, considering how far Nokia have come in the last few years.
James, once again, just maybe you can do this whilst we're talking through the next question. I wonder if you can flick through the pictures, but much closer to the camera again. Philip's also been asking a couple of questions. He wants to know, first of all, how long the battery lasts on Nokia N8. How long have you found that?
Well, I charged it up, but like I said, I've been using it for just over a week. And during that week I was writing all of those guides that you've seen across Electric, and it needed charging how many times that week? Twice, I think, twice in kind of 5 days, and that's sustained heavy use every day. So it's getting a good 2 days solid use out of it, and like I say, that was kind of a good full working day writing those pieces, which is 8 hours. I'd say, yeah, no, it's probably a fair test, to be honest, because I was trying every function. I was doing a lot of uploading online.
Alexis has also just asked in the chat regarding the shutter, and she says, does the hole for the camera tend to gather dust like older Nokias have? No, actually, it's my house is terribly dusty because we moved in not long ago. It's not prone to dust. It's set back. That question earlier about is there a cover, and I said it's toughened glass, and it's actually set back a little bit. I'm trying to hold it really close. It's set back a little bit, but it's not set back so much that it's going to trap loads of dirt and grime like some camera lenses do. And at the same time, I don't know if you can see that silver bit is actually it's kind of tapered inwards, so I guess you could just wipe it out up and over that lip. But no, it's not a huge dirt trap. No, I wouldn't say so. Philip was also wondering about the video codecs that it supports and how that's
okay, what does it have as standard? I don't think it runs DivX. All the videos that I've tried it with have been in H.264, which partly because that lets you add multi-channel, and that's what I was testing. It will play H.264, and let's try and get the I'll get the specs up actually and just tell you. But I haven't tried DivX with it. I'm pretty sure it doesn't run DivX out of the box. But like I say, it has HDMI out, which has multi-channel, and it will play H.264 and all of the standard mobile formats, MP4, etc.
Stephen and Andrew both asked more about the battery life. They want to know whether it drains the battery life using the camera, and whether sort of your average 2 days running time was including you were surfing the web and making calls. Yeah,
so that's 2 days using this as my main phone, and using it as reference when I was writing all those guides. So yeah, that's 2 days of proper standard use. What was the other one? Does the camera have any
does it cause any? Yeah.
Not that I noticed. It's difficult to pin down one feature when you're using the phone as your normal device. I can't say I noticed that taking lots of pictures, as I did, the 2 days I was writing those photography guides. I can't say that I noticed that being a huge impact. I mean, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's more impact than having it stood in standby, but it didn't seem to drastically reduce it, even when filming video.
James has also just chimed in the chat saying that the N8 does support DivX video.
Fair enough.
But what else we got here? Bit of a complicated one to pronounce, so sorry if I get it wrong. Azozdil wants to know what you think about the colour difference between the edges and the aluminium, or the sort of the matte and the shine.
Do you know, I actually really like it. It took me a while. When I first saw it, I thought this green was horrible, but actually it has grown on me hugely, and there's a few nice little design touches. I'll try and take you around them. I'll try and hold it up a bit closer. Nokia reckon it's a different way of making phones for them than all the ones they've done in the past, because it's kind of bolted together a bit different. You'll notice there's no battery cover anywhere, and that's because this doesn't have a removable battery. Unlike I think that's the first for Nokia. What do I make of the aluminium bits? I think you mean the kind of the chamfered edge around the camera. It's just there. I think it looks nice, you know. I think it was very slick. It's also really solid, because it's all made of metal. It's not, you know, some Nokias were a bit creaky when they were kind of plasticky, but this is absolutely, you know, it feels unbreakable, which is nice.
Patrick on Twitter and Alexis in the chat have both asked about the screen visibility. Patrick wants to know what it's like in bright light, if it's AMOLED, and Alexis wants to know whether it means the colours are noticeably better. Pictures
do look brilliant on it, and it's hard to kind of show you guys here. It's very, very bright, even in direct sunlight. When we were using it outside today to take those pictures of Steve and the garden, it's really, really quite hard to. I'll show you that around. It's quite hard to get too many reflections on it. It's obviously a big screen, but it's very bright, very colourful. It's not. I was at Nokia World the other week and saw their new screen stuff, which is all about black levels. This is quite a good example. I'll just wipe some finger marks off the screen. See if you can see between the bezel of the phone and the black of the screen, because that's usually a good test. If it's murky grey, then that's a bad thing. This is pretty hard to tell, and that's down to that OLED screen. Any more?
Yeah, Sivhead in the chat has asked, is there an app similar to FaceTime on the iPhone that makes video calls over Wi-Fi?
I don't know about an app similar to FaceTime. There is a front-facing camera there. In fact, if I go into camera, excuse me. If I go into camera, hit options, and you'll see there's one there for use secondary camera. I tap that, and there you go. Instead of seeing me, you see my screen. So there is a secondary camera there, and that's for taking pictures of yourself, and you can see my lamp, and for video calls. So rather than FaceTime, which only works on Wi-Fi, as you say, and only phones other iPhones or iPod Touches now, you can phone any 3G phone that's on the 3G network with the front camera on this. It will cost you a little bit more than a normal call. Most 3G tariffs now don't have video calling built in. They used to when it was a selling point, but most of them don't bundle it now. But you can still do it. And you can phone any 3G phone, not just one that's on Wi-Fi and happens to be made by Apple. So, yeah, I guess that's like FaceTime.
Bash and Stephen have both asked in the chat about the non-removable battery. A little bit concerned about what happens should, heaven forbid, the phone crash.
Yeah.
How do you start?
What happens when the phone crashes? It's only locked up once for me, and it was when I was installing some old Symbian software. And it was when I was fiddling around with, I'll tell you what it was Swipe. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's the keyboard app where instead of tapping letters of a word, you draw a line between them, and it means you can type really quick. Because I knew it was coming for the N8, so I wanted to try it out. So I just downloaded any old Symbian version and whacked it on. Turns out it wasn't the right version for Symbian 3, so it didn't work, and it got a bit confused, and it locked up. It didn't crash, it locked up, and I could still get into the menus, but it hadn't completely frozen. And all I did was hold down the power button, held it down for about 4 seconds, and it switched off and turned it back on again. So you can restart it. There's no problem there. It's the same as the iPhone. You can restart the iPhone even though that doesn't have a battery you can yank out. The question about replacing the battery in the long run, it's that same question, isn't it, that always comes up with iPods and iPhones. Does it really matter? I've got my old iPod kicking around that I bought 4 or 5 years ago, and I still use it on holiday. I think it's one of those things that you instinctively want to rail against. I don't particularly like it as a habit, but in practice it doesn't actually make that much difference. Any more questions?
Yeah, Philip's got a couple more questions on photographs of the N8. He wants to know how much storage space does a full resolution 12 megapixel snap take on the N8, and will it end up filling up the whole phone quickly?
That is a good question. It's got 16 gig inside, so you're not gonna fill that up with photos straight away. What you probably fill it up with is music and videos, to be honest. But then there's a micro SD slot in the side, which I'm now struggling to open, and that'll take up to a 32 gig card. So that's 48 gig you could shove inside it. There's the micro SD slot right there, just in the side. Right next to the SIM card slot, actually, and that's the USB socket there. Let me see if I can find out how much space there is, how much a photo takes. So I'll just look at this one that I took earlier. Details. Here you go. Size 1 megabyte. The phone reckons, and its resolution is 4000 by 3000. Let me just go through this. So there you go. So I've just gone into a photo and looked at the options for it. I can see its name, description, which I can add, album, it's in captured because I took the photo, date and time today at 26 minutes plus 1, location, it geotags photos as well because there's GPS inside, size 1 meg, resolution 4000 by 3000. So there you go. So 1024 pics per gig. So 1024 times 16, 16,384 without a memory card, to be precise.
And on a related note, Philip also wants to know whether if you send a photograph via a picture message, MMS, what resolution it goes at. So he's slightly worried that he's not going to end up sending huge 5 megabyte files.
Yeah, it's same as most phones that do MMS. Was it, Stephen? It crams them down. MMS has a maximum size of photo that it will take anyway. It's just part of the MMS standard. So it compresses that anyway before it embeds it. So don't worry. It's not going to take any longer to send a picture from a 12 megapixel camera than it would from a 2 megapixel camera or a 1 megapixel, because it compresses them down before they send.
Bash wants to know whether you can take lower res pictures if you want to.
Yeah, you can. I'll go into that now. So I'll go into the camera again, and I'll just hit options, settings, and I thought it was in here. Options. No, I've seen it for camera. Definitely, you can change. I've seen it somewhere. Let me find it, and I'll come back to you. Any more questions while I'm rifling through? Oh, there we go. Sorry, there we go. Image settings, image quality, 12 megapixel, which is large, and it says print. And there's a handy slider which goes up and down the top, up and down the side of the screen. And so high and basic it goes from. High at the top, 12 megapixel large, used for large size prints up to 50 centimeters by 40 centimeters. It tells me how many images are remaining that it can take at that size, which is quite a nice touch. So at the bottom it says I can take 7,300 odd still without running out of memory. High, large, medium, small. There you go. MMS. There's even an option to take a photo for MMS size, although it will crunch down anything bigger. MMS is 0.3 megapixel. Fact fans. Cool. So there you go. You can do it. Any others?
Alexis has got a couple of questions to do with the screen. First off, Alexis wants to know whether there is a sensor for screen visibility depending on brightness.
Yeah, there is. There's an ambient light sensor. just up here, I don't know if you can see, I'll try and find it. That big circle is the camera, and just to the left of it, that's the ambient light sensor there. So that if you go outside and it's bright, it amps up the brightness of the screen. If you're indoors and it's dim, it dims it down because you can still see it without it using too much power, and that helps the battery life as well.
Alexis also wants to know whether you can turn the shutter sound on the camera, hopefully not for nefarious purposes.
Sneaky, can you? I don't know actually. I don't know if that says more about me than you for not trying. Let's have a little look. Options, settings. Capture tone, I can change. Oh yeah, no, I can turn it off. There you go. So capture. I've got 4 different camera tones, so I might as well let you hear them. Here's the first one. It's very quiet. But yeah, you can turn it off. Let's see if I change it to number 4. It's not making any. Maybe I've got it on silent. But anyway, you can. There's your answer. You can turn it off.
Pretty unusual. Stephen wants to know, and Philip as well, there's a couple of questions popping up about comparisons to the iPhone 4 really. Do you prefer it to the iPhone 4, and have you had any death grip problems?
There's no death grip problems, no. I've got my iPhone 4 right here. There you go, so there's an iPhone 4 and there's an N8. Size-wise, the N8 is a little bit thicker because of that camera, so I'll hold them up side by side and hopefully you'll be able to see. So there's the backs. I've got a daft sticker on my iPhone, but there they are side by side, and there's the profile. It's tiny bit thicker. You can just see that camera cover just peeping out. Do I prefer it to the iPhone 4? It takes quite a lot to prize the iPhone 4 from me, but I have actually really enjoyed using the N8 for the past kind of week or so. And the camera, like I said earlier, I really prefer having that amount of control, being able to change things like exposure when you're taking a picture without having to buy any apps to do it. If you're going to put a brilliant camera in a phone, put brilliant camera software in to go with it. That's what I think. But at the same time, it can be really simplistic. You know, you don't have to fiddle about with all the settings just to take a picture. And it's very quick. I mean, taking pictures of Steve the sausage dog, Steve doesn't stay still for more than about a second. So getting a picture of Steve's face is very tricky. And this manages it straight away. There's a reason there's hardly any pictures of Steve on my Facebook page for my mates to see, because using an iPhone I couldn't take pictures of her because she just moves too quick. This is much quicker, and from that point of view, yeah, I prefer the camera in this immensely. In terms of apps and stuff, the Ovi Store's got a lot better recently. I was mooching around there not long ago, and there's tons in there that I didn't realise had made the jump from iPhone and Symbian to iPhone and Android to Symbian. So yeah, I could quite happily live with this instead. Would I want to? Probably not. I've spent a small fortune on apps for my iPhone 4, but if I was picking between the two now, they're a lot closer than Nokia used to be, definitely.
Simon's in the chat and he wants to know, where's the speaker on the phone? He can't see where it would be.
It's a very good question, actually. Let's see if we can play some music and find out. When I played music before, it seemed to come out from behind the screen, and there is a little gap at the bottom, which is maybe where it is. Let me find it. Ah, there you go. It's there. It's actually there. It's underneath the camera. It's that little slit just there, that little horizontal slit. It's pretty good. It's very loud. There's not much distortion either, which is quite strange for. Let's try playing it and putting it on the desk, see if it distorts. Okay, it's a little bit more muffled if you put it flat on the desk, but because of that shape again, it doesn't sit flat on that camera lump. It sort of sits at an angle, slightly horizontally. So we've got, looking at the clock, quick time check, we've got 9 minutes left, so you better cram in a couple more questions.
Couple more questions, yeah. Any more questions that you all have, please do drop them in the chat. Andrew wants to know whether the N8 comes with Skype preloaded.
I couldn't find Skype on this one, but I know it's available through the Ovi store. So it's no hardship really to go and add it. Included apps, I'm just looking now. Let's have a quick look. Okay, so we've got Adobe PDF readers, Quick Office, there's a zip manager so you can undo zip files. Nokia's social app, YouTube is preloaded, Ovi Music, there's an FM radio in this as well. There's not that many preloaded apps, but the Ovi store is right there, front and centre on the main screen. So it's really easy to go and add new apps to this. Any more?
What have we got here? Alexis wants to know, how quickly can you send a text from the lock screen? It's really important.
It sounds really important. Okay, well here you go. Here's the lock screen. Wake up. There's the lock screen. And unlocking it is really straightforward. There you go. That's unlocked. Oh, it would help if I showed you on camera, wouldn't it? There you go. There's locked. And there's unlocked. How did I do that? I didn't touch the screen. There's a slider on the side of the phone there. You see that? Just there. And that slides, it's sprung, so there you go, you can spring it forwards and back, and that's what locks the screen. So it's a bit like a trigger finger. So there's the home screen. Oh, that's funny. Locked, unlocked, and on the messages straight away. There you go. That's pretty quick. And then send, bang, done. It's not, yeah, pretty quick.
And I think it's just time for a couple more. Stephen wants to know, are there any other photography apps preloaded on the N8?
There's no other photography apps. There's the camera that you've seen. There's photo viewer, which you've seen, and there's photo editor. There's also a video editor, but we'll come to that in a different Q&A. There's no other photo apps, but like I say, Ovi Store is right there. It's quite simple to dive in and buy other apps. One nice thing as well about the Ovi Store, I didn't realise this till recently, you can buy apps and have operator billing, so you can have the cost of them put onto your mobile bill rather than handing over your credit card and stuff and having lots of different accounts to manage, which is nice. It's a really nice touch.
And Andrew wants to know the battery life. Just wants to double check when you were testing it. Did you have your status logged into all of the accounts?
Yeah,
it was constantly polling them.
Yeah, it was constantly polling them. I'll show you what I did actually, which kind of proved to you that. Here's the home screen. If you press and hold, then you get those little boxes that can hold widgets, just like the sort of widgets that you get on an Android phone. If I tap into them, then there's a ton preloaded. And one of them at the bottom is social, and that polls for updates from Twitter and Facebook regularly. So, yeah. Any more? Fully squeezed.
I think one more in. Simon wants to know, how much faster is it than Nokia 5800 Express Music?
Oh,
Which one has the best speakers?
I think it's a lot quicker than the 5800. The good old Nokia Tube, as it was known when it was a prototype. It's a lot faster than that. Symbian 3 is very zippy. Which one's got the better speakers? Did the 5800 have stereo speakers? I think it might. I think it might have. You know, I honestly don't know without putting them side by side. But if you're going to pick one over the other, it's got to be the N8, hasn't it? If you're really desperate for mobile speakers, then probably buy a pair of separate mobile speakers or invest in a decent pair of headphones. It's got a proper headphone jack on the top as well, which is nice. Any more, or should we wrap it up?
I think we should wrap it up.
But
thanks everyone for the questions.
Yeah, thanks very much for your questions. And if you've got any more, whack them into the comments section. just below this post, and we'll try and answer a few more if we haven't already covered them off. And then, yeah, we're off to upload this to YouTube so you can watch later on too. Thanks very much. Bye.